Welcome inside episode 558 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And to wrap up a week of hypotheticals, we talked about potential trades. We talked about potential players at 7th overall, and now a top 10 mock draft version 1.0.
And Ross, there's a lot of potential outcomes that can happen in the NHL playoffs as the two greatest words in sports, Game 7. There's a bunch of them coming up. And oh my God, I am so surprised that the Toronto Maple Leafs choked. What a shocker. We're going to get Game 7 on Saturday, and we're going to have some fun at the Leaf pile in last night's game.
I thought you were going to say the best words in sports, a sad Leaf pile. Get the rakes out. Game 7 coming on Saturday night in Toronto. We'll tee you up for all that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Friday, May 13th. We want to wish a happy birthday to Senators head coach and currently associate coach with Team Canada, DJ Smith. Hey!
Happy birthday, DJ. Well deserved. Hey, that's awesome that he's going along, and having Thomas Chabot as the captain there, that's a nice boost. There's a lot of Sens talent going on at the World Championship.
DJ Smith celebrating his 45th birthday. Well deserved for another trip around the sun.
Well deserved. Well deserved birthday.
I love it. Hey, he just put up the most wins he's had in a season with the Ottawa Senators. Only 25 wins in 71 games the first year.
Asterisks, shorter seasons. He would have got well over 25 wins if they were full seasons, let's be honest.
Well, that's the thing, right? This past year was his first full season coaching the Ottawa Senators, and with stops and starts, put an asterisk next to a full season because they played 82, but it certainly was anything but smooth sailing. That being said, he knows as well as anybody, the jury, they're deliberating, they're waiting, and 20 games into next season, we're going to know what we have in both Coach DJ Smith and GM Pierre Dorion.
I mean, even sooner, Ross. Like, what was the game amount where the records were identical
20.
To start the seasons? It was 20? Okay, yeah.
Four wins in each of the last two sets of 20 games.
Gotta do better than that.
Gotta. What are you drawing it at? You have to have 8 or more? That should be bare minimum.
Let's go, over under 7.5. Gotta be.
I mean, if
that's a low bar still.
That's a low bar. Mm-hmm. You should be able to crawl over that bar.
But if you can get more than that and get more than one win in November, then we can see some optimism here. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves here, and let's just set the bar low so that DJ can jump over it.
Well, DJ is going to be jumping over hurdles in Helsinki this week. We're not going to get into the game too much because we're recording 2 hours before the opening game of the tournament. Team Canada versus Team I almost said Slovakia. We're going to talk about a few Slovaks, though, coming up in our mock draft. But Team Germany, of course, Tim Stutzle. Maybe that's where I got the S from there. I was going to say Timmy Superstar. But that being said, it's awesome, man. Do you see the play Timmy did in the pre-tournament game? Our boy Derek Lee tweeted it out. Where
I missed it.
He's coming back. He's looking like he's going to loop in. And one of his players is offside. So anyway, I'm going to pull it up for the people watching on YouTube, but what are you expecting to see at World Championships? Lots of Sens involved in this game and more.
I'm going to be highlighted on Tim Stutzle because this is a massive opportunity for him to get to play internationally for his country and maybe have a little bit better of a showing than they did in the World Juniors. I mean, that was up against Team Canada last time, did not go so well for him, if we remember correctly, although it was pretty sweet that after that massive loss, he signed his NHL contract. So he goes to bed sleeping pretty soundly after that. He's not too worried. But getting to play alongside Mo Seider is going to be great. And I wonder, Ross, how much of a difference it makes chemistry-wise getting to play with players of your first language. I know obviously it's not like Timmy has like broken English or anything that's a problem.
Whoa. Are you chirping Josh Norris and Drake Batherson's ability to speak German?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I just think it would make it a little easier to communicate. It's a little more free flowing. So I wonder if that makes a difference at all. But I mean, I think the handicap of playing with NHL Canadian non-German speaking players versus non-NHL German speaking players, that probably throws my whole theory out the window here.
But we know that his confidence is at an all-time high right now. I'm sharing my screen. I think this is our first time using it for video though, Pillsy.
See
so
how it goes.
I'm hopeful.
Germany versus Austria. That's like a Battle of Ontario type battle.
Okay, check out this play. I'll do a little play-by-play as we go, but if you're watching on YouTube, and stop me right away, Pillsy. I won't say anything for the first couple seconds. Let me know if it's frozen, okay? It's on. Good?
It's on. Yep, we're good.
Okay, watch this play from Timmy. To tap it through, because his guy's offside, right? Whoops.
Timmy.
Decent little move here, eh? So look, they go in the offensive zone, chips out, and instead of going and forcing it offside, he's able to put it through the triangle and just regroup. Unbelievable there. Timmy Superstar.
Timmy's just like, well, I'm just going to pass this puck off to the best teammate here. Oh, it's me.
Yeah. Speaking of best teammates, Pillsy, before we get to our mock draft, I feel like we need to discuss the Leafs Lightning game last night. And I know your parlay hit again. Your parlay is on an absolute heater. Stay tuned to the end of today's Locked On Senators for another one from red hot Brandon Piller.
It couldn't have been closer. Like that's how you get excitement from a parlay.
Yeah.
The over and Tampa winning in a 3-3 overtime that needs 7 goals and Tampa winning. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Sports gambling is the ultimate highs and lows. Like all season, it's been just a total nosedive for me. And now I'm up. The odds were great on that parlay. So hopefully you guys were riding along here.
Elsie, when you're looking to re-sign your next contract with Locked On, you got to say that you brought it in the biggest moments.
Yes.
Right?
That's what I do.
You know, there's regular season players, but then there's playoff performers, and those are the guys that get paid, Pillsy.
I wouldn't have made it to the playoffs, though, with that regular season performance, so that's a tough argument.
Waivers.
Big time waivers, yeah.
I'd put a few Maple Leafs on waivers last night. I'd also put Brandon Hagel on waivers. That guy almost lost the game single-handedly for Tampa, not only with his missed opportunities offensively. Nick Paul did it all. Put it right on Hagel's stick. He couldn't get the shot off.
Yeah.
Connor Brown scores that one even.
Oh, damn. With 2 healthy wrists, yeah, Connor Brown scores that one.
Fair. So, great game. Tampa jumps out to a 2-0 lead. Toronto storms back, scores twice. In the later stages, I looked at Rachel right before the goal. I said, they can't give up a goal here in the last minute of the second period. Momentum goals, if you listen to the show often. And sure shit, Spaz is going to the net. And I know this is me being a little too goalie friendly, but Spezza takes a whack at Vasilevsky's glove. Like, to me, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of responding to Leaf fans who were so quick to point out that Corey Perry gave a little tap to Jack Campbell's stick as the shot came in. That's just him being a rat, like we know he is.
That's what Corey Perry does, yeah.
That's the worm, right? He's just greasing it up in there. But I thought that it was no different than the play where Jason Spetz is going, and Spetz didn't even get credit for the goal. It was whoever shot it initially, John Tavares, I believe, in the slot. But anyways, they didn't challenge it. They just kind of, you're on a 5-on-3, right? If it's a goal, you're still on a 5-on-3. Like, that's a tough situation for the Maple Leafs. But maximum heartbreak. That's what it is. You take the lead going in the third period. You're at this point, you're like, 10 minutes away from moving on to the second round for the first time in 18 years, if you're not mistaken. And the Sportsnet broadcast, Pillsy, they were jinxing it from the start. They had the Spezza clip from 2004 with his iPod, not the mini, not the iPhone, the original iPod. It's like this thick.
The shuffle?
No.
Oh, no, the massive video one, the big block. Yeah, I got you.
Block.
I had
Spezza
one of those.
Was rolling around with that one in 04.
Yep.
But this was just a fantastic hockey game with a chef's kiss of a finish.
Absolutely, yeah. And I had to work last night, so I didn't get to watch the game live, but I had Leafs fans blowing up my phone when they went up to a 3-2 lead. And as soon as that happened, I was like, guaranteed Lightning's win. Like, if the Leafs fans think they're going to win with a lead, I don't like, where have they been all their Leafs fandom lives? Like, yeah,
They've been right here, buddy, right in the pile.
there's the Leaf pile, and that's so good. And one thing, that guy, see the guy in the highlighter green? He's just over there. I'm pointing as if
With the
that
mask?
helps. Yeah, he has a sign that says, "Do I look nervous?" When they scored, he would hold it up. Where's the sign now, buddy? Are you nervous now? Like, if go watch the replays of the Leaf pile when it gets stirred up when they score, and that's the guy with the "Do I look nervous?" sign. And yeah, he might be a little nervous now. And seeing that Leaf pile being sad is, I had a rough day, and that made my day. Like, that turned my day right around. I felt so good after that. Look at these faces. Oh,
I know, it's almost like pick your favorite. This guy with the blue headbands all time.
yeah, the guy with the blue headband, I think, is mine. Or the guy behind him that just can't believe it, too, is good.
We're doing like a full-on recreate. Like, honestly, they say The Last Supper is an iconic painting. This is right up there. The shock, the dismay, but the fact that they've lived this year after year. Look at the guy with the crunched face right there. He's had enough.
Like, imagine being a 15-year-old Leafs fan.
Oh my God.
Tough.
Look at that. Shots on goal, 34-34.
Yeah.
Minute 56 left in overtime. And the faces, Pilsy. Right back to these two guys, front and center. Tweedledee and Tweedledoo. There you go. Or should I say Tweedledon't, because that's what the Leafs haven't been able to do in the Marner and Matthews era. Now 0-9 in games where they can eliminate their opponent. Now, we'll tell you what Vasilevsky's record is in games where he can eliminate his opponent over the last two playoffs. But first, Pilsy, you got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Ross with
Damn, that was a fun segment.
Yeah, that was great. I wish we could do sad Leaf pile more often. And yes, the Leafs fans can say what they want about the Senators, but I love hate watching them. So say what you want. It's enjoyment for me. Maybe that makes me a true elite Sens brain sicko, but that's my life.
But it's also the fact the Leafs got first overall in what we will admit was the second or third best draft lottery, because obviously McDavid is number one. That's the prize jewel of the last 10 years.
Who else are you?
McKinnon in 2013. Like, it's close.
Fair.
It's close. They're both ridiculous.
Yep.
The Sens have more playoff wins in the Matthews era than the Leafs do. I mean, the Leafs have gone to the playoff. Do we even count the bubble? They didn't even make it out of the qualifying round.
Yeah. No, we count that because it works in our favor. That's another
First
time
Columbus.
they choked out there.
Verbal meme, I'm LeBron James pointing at J.R. Smith after he ran out the clock.
Yeah.
Like, can you not see this?
Yeah. It's hilarious. And just one more thing before we move on. Elite Leafs brain saying we forced Game 7 up against the Lightning. You lost Game 6. That's not forcing Game 7, or at least not in a positive way. So I thought that was an all-time Twitter moment. Ross, you know me, I usually don't roll around in the mud on Twitter, but when I saw
Leave that to me.
I was a pig rolling around in the mud. That was just too
you
good
have to.
I couldn't leave it. Like, I typed out the tweet and then I said, nah, it's not worth it. And I deleted it, and then right after I was like, nope, got to.
That was a brutal tweet. All right, hit the ad. Let's get to our mock draft.
Yes. Okay. So with so many Game 7s going, Ross, it's tough going 7-game series. You need to make sure you've got protein. And the best way to get your protein in is a delicious way. How about you try Built Bar, the protein bar that conveniently tastes like a candy bar. And what we love about Built Bar is they focus on making it taste good first. So unlike all those other hard to chew, gross flavor, chalkiness, weird, odd flavors that just don't work, Built Bar says, let's make a candy bar. Now let's make it healthy. And if you like marshmallows, you're going to love protein-infused marshmallows, and that's their Built Puffs. They have so many great flavors. We recommend you check out the mix box because you're going to love every single one of them. And chocolate lovers, this is the one for you. Every single Built bar, including Built Puffs, are covered in 100% real chocolate. So how do you get your hands on one of these delicious protein bars? Well, head to built.com, check out your favorite flavors. They've got raspberry, double chocolate, banana cream pie. They're all delicious. And use our promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar.
All right, Pilsy, before we get to our version 1, which is subject to change, terms and conditions apply. We also want to wish a happy playoff finale to Philip Dao as his St. John Sea Dogs have lost in the first round to Rimouski. They were the favorite to win. Now they have to wait a month plus a week, 5 weeks if you're scoring at home, until they host the Memorial Cup. Yikes.
That's so tough because the Sea Dogs sold the farm for this season. And I mean, as you should. That's how junior hockey works. Like if you have a chance, it's all about cashing in at the right time and then recycling. And this is the right time to cash in. So they traded a hell of a lot of draft picks, players, everything to try to bolster this team and get bounced this early, because now the problem is all those teams they're going to meet in the Mem Cup are going to be hungry. They're going to have adrenaline up, and the Sea Dogs are going to have to get back into playoff mode after taking basically almost a whole offseason off. It's going to be very tough to get back into form.
You know what? This actually did happen with the Windsor Spitfires, though, with Logan Brown.
Yep.
And I believe they won the Memorial Cup after
did they win
all was said and done.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. And when I'm looking at this St. John game last night, too, they lose 4-3 in overtime.
That's a tough way to lose an elimination game, Ross.
Pilsy, they went down 2-0 in the first 7 minutes of the game. They come back. They tie it midway through the second. They score to go ahead at the start of the third period. You got to hold on. You got to hold on to a game like that. Philip Dao, no goals, no assists, 6 for 18 in the faceoff circle. So probably not his best game. His playoffs, he finishes with 2 goals, both shorthanded, 3 points in 5 games. Again, they are going to be waiting quite a while until their next game. The next game for the Kingston Frontenacs, well, it's going to be Saturday night, and Pilsy, they're facing elimination. They lost 4-3 last night to the, I almost said North Bay Battalion. They were down 4-0 in this game. So I guess credit them for fighting back and making it respectable. Although
it is the North Bay Battalion.
Oh, I almost said Brampton.
Okay.
Nice.
I had to double check myself there. Yeah, you're
Way
good.
to go.
You're good.
Nice move by me. They did score 2 of their 3 goals, Pilsy, in the last 41 seconds of the game. So this one was well over before then. Levi Marilainen made 33 saves on 37 shots. Ben Roger, +1. No, 1 shot. Even in the 4-3
He had his guy.
He had his guy, exactly. But yeah, Saturday they're going to be facing elimination. They're down in their series. I believe it's 3-1
now, yeah.
They're down in their series. And Pilsy, I'll let you take over here because the one bright spot when it comes to Sens prospect was out west with Zach Ostapchuk.
Yeah, Zach Ostapchuk has been a really bright spot for these Vancouver Giants. And hey, talk about having your man. He is doing literally everything possible to will these Giants forward. In 10 games, how about 19 points? And he had 2 goals in yesterday's game, 2 goals on 4 shots. He also had 10 PIMs. I didn't catch what that was about. I don't know what happened there, but he's talk about an ultimate playoff performer. That's what you like to see from a guy that the Sens took in the second round. And we're pretty excited about what Ostapchuk has to offer here. But, I mean, they knocked off Everett, the number 1 seed, and now they're up against a really good Kamloops Blazers team. You can only do so much, so we'll see how it goes, but I'm not too optimistic he's going to see much more playoff action.
No, they are facing elimination now, too. They're down 3-1 in that series. Ostapchuk is leading the WHL in scoring in a tie, actually, with his line mate, Fabian Lysal, both with 19 points.
He's got to be up there in the CHL playoff scoring even, no?
Yeah, I do not have that number in front of me, but I can tell you that it's ultimately impressive enough. They only have him listed as 2 penalty minutes. I don't know if they don't count 10-minute misconducts here on the stat sheet, but hey, it's the points that really jump out here. 5 goals too, because going into this series, he only had 2 goals. So now he's kind of turned in from the playmaker into a guy who can put the puck in the net. Go check out that breakaway goal. It's an absolute beauty last night. We've retweeted that at Sens Central. And of course, our boy Sens prospects will always have that involved as well. Okay, we've made you wait. We've made you wait for the mock draft, the crown jewel of today's show. But first, let me tell you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net has you covered with more odds, props, and lines than ever before. From everything, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA basketball, golf seasons here. Anything you want to put a little wager on, BetOnline.net is here for you. It's the source for everything information-wide. Head to the website today. Check it out for yourself. I'm telling you, you can become a smarter gambler by heading to betonline.net. They've also got a great mobile device, so learn more about the trends in action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, Pillsy, drum roll, please. We are getting into the mock draft version 1.0. It's going to be easy to kick this one off, Pillsy, because there is a consensus number 1 pick.
Yeah, definitely. This is one where I don't think the Habs are going to go big-brained on this one. I think they're just going to go with their guy, and it's going to be Kingston Frontenac player Shane Wright, first overall, and hopefully he gets used to losing in the playoffs, because if he's going to Montreal, he's going to have to figure that out.
What kind of player is Montreal getting here?
He's a big centerman. He's a guy. He was one of the players that was given exceptional status to the OHL. So, like, anytime you can add your name on that list, that's a pretty massive accomplishment, and it obviously shows that you're ahead of schedule and that you're able to go into the next league with ease, considering the transition. And I think he's going to be a guy that steps into the NHL at a pretty good transition as well. And they're getting a hell of a player, as anyone who's getting first overall is. So congrats to them for getting that pick when they're hosting the draft. Like, that's pretty hype. Like, I will admit, as a Habs hater, you don't love to see it, but that is going to be sweet.
Yeah, it'll be electric at the Bell Center. Yeah. Nobody says that it's not a loud building. It's one of the best places in the National Hockey League. Players will tell you that as well. The atmosphere in there, and I'm sure it'll be raucous when they're going up. No pressure, Shane. Yeah. No pressure at all. I'm sure everything's going to be fine. I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Everything was great for their last first overall pick, too. Doug Wickenheiser. Ever heard of him? No, I didn't think so.
No, I literally have not heard of him.
That being said, it's the first team since the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1985 to draft first overall in the draft they are hosting as well. So we will continue on. Shane Wright had a great year, 90-some points in 60 games. He's also a player who didn't get to play at all last year, as we know the OHL never got to pick up. Yeah, so that being said, Shane Wright is first overall in our mock draft 1.0. We've got a graphic. We'll put it up at the end to summarize it all, but we don't want to give it away until the end. So without further ado, second overall, the New Jersey Devils select Pillsy.
Are we going to put the graphic up, or we're going to tease him here?
Go. Who do you have second overall?
Logan Cooley will be going to the New Jersey Devils. And I mean, this is one we kind of went back and forth on, Ross, because I made the argument that the New Jersey Devils, they already have 2 first overall picks down the middle in Hischier and Hughes. So it would seem kind of crazy to take another, a second overall pick. But nothing wrong with having 3 really good centers. And Logan Cooley, it does seem like in scouting circles, is the consensus second best player available behind Shane Wright. So it's a smart move to take him. And who knows, maybe you see him move to the wing if they're trying to bolster their top 6.
That's the thing with prospects at this stage in the draft. You have to take the best player available. I understand in like the second or third round, you look at your depth chart, you're like, oh, we're really thin on right D, and maybe that's a tiebreaker between 2 guys who you have ranked pretty closely together. But it's second overall, Pillsy, like, Yeah, there's a few good wingers that we're going to get to. There's 2 elite right shot defensemen. And could this be a spot where they shock the world and take one? Maybe it wouldn't even be shocking. Like, I've talked to a couple scouts as well who have said they have a certain defenseman who we're going to get to at second overall in their ranking. So we know defensemen always go in the top 5.
Yeah.
Without question, there will be a defenseman, maybe 2, in this year's top 5. If it's not Logan Cooley at number 2, do you think they take a defenseman or one of the wingers?
Me personally, I think they would go with Slafkovsky. I just think if you can get a big, strong winger that can play alongside Hischier and or Hughes, you're setting yourself up for success. Now, I know they have Holtz. They've got, I mean, the Devils just have so many prospects now. They've got options, but there's other centermen available in the draft that if they wanted to find a third line type center, they could get that value later on. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do go with Slafkovsky, or maybe it would be a bit of a reach probably, but maybe a guy like Joakim Kemell, who we touched on in yesterday's show. But maybe even see the Devils trade down since they won the lottery, sort of moving up to second. And maybe they're like, hey, we can afford to trade down if another team is really high on Logan Cooley or someone like that. Then maybe you see that happen. It doesn't happen very often. Like, it's very rare a top 5 pick team trades down. So probably won't happen, but hey, who knows?
So Logan Cooley, as his kind of profile, he's a guy with a ton of skill. He's a type of player that can facilitate for his line mates. Like we talked about Cutter Gauthier on yesterday's show. They were line mates at the U.S. program, and we saw the goals that Gauthier had. Well, I'd say at least half, if not more, were assisted on by Logan Cooley. He had a fantastic World Under-18s this year. Yeah, they were put to bed in the final by Sweden, got caught against a great goalie there too, and a lot of offensive upside from some player that we'll get to soon. But Pillsy, 10 points in 6 games there. He even had an assist in the lone game. He made Team USA's World Junior squad, and we know that the World Juniors will happen after the draft. He'll be there, but it's too bad that it's not one final scouting look at him against players who are a bit older than him. But certainly he's got all the puck skills in the world and could be a guy who you throw on the wing with a Jack Hughes, or you put him with a Nico Hischier and get that offensive. He's just a strong two-way guy. Bob McKenzie has him at number 2. Craig Button has him at number 2. Sportsnet has him at number 2. And by the consolidated ranking, he's at number 2. So that's where we have him on ours. As we move on to the 3rd pick, the Arizona Coyotes select.
I gotta remember, we switched it around a couple times here, Ross. All right, there it is. If you're watching on YouTube, Simon Nemec, the right shot defenseman. And for Arizona, we joked about this before, they are in a position where it doesn't matter where their prospects play on the ice because they have zero depth anywhere. Like there's all positions are positions of need. So they just need to take the best player available, because honestly, in 4 or 5 years, they might be having Simon Nemec on their trade block and trying to acquire more assets. So I think this is a good move for them, especially since they're probably going to move on from Chychrun. So they will have, other than Gothisberg, like no one for that decor, and they need him badly. So I think taking a right shot defenseman, that's a lot of value. There's a lot of hype about Nemec. He puts up big points. He's a solid right shot defenseman. I think it makes a lot of sense for him to go to Arizona.
Now, later on, either in the upcoming weeks or months ahead, we're going to do a show comparing and contrasting Nemec and the next guy on our list, because they're both right shot defenders. They're both from Czechoslovakia, even though it's split up before they were born. I needed to get something to tie that together, though, Pilsy. But the Slovak defenseman here in Nemec, his numbers are ridiculous this season, playing against men. And remember that, right? He's in parts of his 3rd season playing against men. 2 full years now in the Slovak men's league. And he's 17. He played there as a 16-year-old, Pilsy, and still put up some
impressive
points.
Yeah.
But at 17, 26 points in 39 games, plus 13. And then his real coming out party this postseason. 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points in 19 games. So almost a point per game as a defenseman. I'm pulling it up now because I got to imagine. Let's see here. Yep. 2nd on the team in playoff scoring.
Wow.
So that tells you what you need to know about a player who is ready to move to the next level. Oh my God. Guess who the goalie was for his team in Slovakia?
I don't know.
Matt O'Connor.
Oh my God. I never would have thought he would say that. Man, Matt O'Connor. God damn, I was so excited about that guy.
Hey, there's great reason to be excited for Simon Nemec, though. And like a part of him, he's just your prototypical minute munching defenseman who can play on the power play. He's a guy who can kill penalties as well. But for me, what separates him and why I think that Arizona could jump up and take him is he's the type of player you build around. Like he is one of those, you have him and he skyrockets up your draft rankings. Last year, they took a forward. They took a forward with their second pick. Their 2020 draft is a complete wipeout.
Yeah.
Their first pick was in the 4th round. They took a racist guy who then
They had to cut him.
And rightfully so. North Dakota cut him too. We would have had to rejig whether or not we're going to keep our allegiance with North Dakota because that guy is a complete scumbag.
Yeah.
He's out. This kid, he is your building block on the back end. Right now, they got no building blocks on the back end. They need one, and that's why we have Simon Nemec going to Arizona at number 3. All right, Pilsy. Number 4, the Seattle Kraken, who had a very solid first draft. They step up and they select the other right shot defenseman in the top 5.
Yeah, and Seattle, they're already like Matty Beniers. He is a true number 1 center. They picked him 2nd overall last year, and the few games that he had, and we got to see him in a couple of those games. He really shined. Like he was a really great player. It didn't seem like he had any struggles moving up that lineup and going to the NHL from college. So they're set from the center position, but defense-wise, like. Sure, they've got Oleksiak.
They took
Larson.
a guy in the 4th. They took a guy in the 4th round who looks like he's developing pretty decently already as well. Ville Otavainen. And then they took a left shot defenseman as well in the 2nd round last year, and it was a bit of a surprise pick, but he looks sick now. Riker Evans is he's a Calgary native, and he was a year past his draft, so it was an overager. You're like, huh? Well, 61 points in 63 games, 96 penalty minutes, and a plus player with the Regina Pats. I got to see him a few times this year. Maybe the numbers are inflated because you just give the puck to Connor Bedard on the breakout, and he goes and does the rest. But I got a couple live looks at him in Winnipeg this year, and he looks good. But he's a lefty defenseman, so let's see. But when you have right shot defensemen and these two guys are so head and shoulders above any other defenseman, you see the first one go, Pillsy, the other one's not lasting much longer.
Yeah, and that's one of those scenarios where they take the first right shot defenseman and then Seattle gets a pick and pick is in probably right away. Like they just know, they're like, oh man, we wanted that right shot guy, so we'll just take the next guy. We can't let him slip.
Well, and in a sense, you're almost happier because you like them both a lot. And
now your choice has been made for you. Yeah.
You don't have to make the decision. So this is what Cam Robinson has to say about him. And again, it would have been nicer if he had more of a sample size this year. Jiricek only played 29 games, had 11 points. He's playing in the Czechia League here. But the reason why is in the 7 minutes he played at the World Juniors, Pillsy, he broke his leg. He's out long-term, missed a ton of time. He says, a knee injury, knee, leg. It's part of your leg. Pillsy's, I know you're not a doctor, but can you confirm that?
I'll give you that one. Sure.
So he is the type of player where he might not put up the same amount of offensive points as Nemec, and maybe that's a separator. Well, again, we'll have to dive in version 1.0. That being said, you're going to play 25, 30 minutes a night going forward, anchor a blue line. And when you're building a team like Seattle more from scratch than anybody else, you're looking at those building block positions. Now, they've got the number 1 center. They've got the number 1 goalie. Shout out my boy, Joey Dax. He's in there somewhere. But in all seriousness, right shot defenseman seems like the next play. And Pillsy, look how Ron Francis assembled his decor, both in free agency and through the expansion draft. Big, reliable, steady defenseman. Larson, Oleksiak, 2 key examples of that there. Even Giordano. Like, they like these steady, reliable guys. That's the profile that I see for a David Jiricek.
Exactly. And I still think they're probably going to get in on Klingberg. It just makes a lot of sense. So then they're going to have their
well, yeah, you don't want Jiricek coming in and being a top 4 guy right away. But he also, I would say, is a bit more mature than Nemec and maybe ready to step in right away He's a November birthday, so one of the older players in the draft as well.
Yeah, and the thing too is like, sure, they got all these big, steady defensemen, but it didn't seem to help out their goalies at all. Like Grubauer and Drieger should have had much better seasons, so they need to figure out a way to bolster this defense so that I think it's like 9.7 million they're spending in goalies can work properly, and it won't be just an anchor on their salary cap situation. So I think bolstering the defense is a big move here, because I think they're going to have, I mean, they already showed they're willing to dip their toes into free agency for forwards, and that's going to be available to them again this offseason, I would assume. So I think going with the right shot defenseman to have that crown jewel on the back end makes a lot of sense for the Kraken.
Good time to mention this stat. There has been at least one defenseman taken in the top 5 every single draft since 2001. That is a stat, and one that will continue. Again, the Senators kept that streak going, taking Jake Sanderson 5th overall in 2020. He was the first defenseman off the board. We have Nemec as the first defenseman off the board to Arizona, and then Seattle taking David Jiricek out of Pleasan of the Czechia League. All right, Pilsy, I know you love this player. Going number 5 to the Philadelphia Flyers.
It's Slafkovsky. He is a very interesting player, and I have I have him a little higher on my list, but I think it makes sense to get those defensemen paired together, and Logan Cooley is one hell of a player, so I don't see him moving down. So for the Flyers to get Slafkovsky at 5th would be a massive boost for them, and they're probably looking to move some of those veteran wingers that they have, maybe a JVR, maybe Cam Atkinson, they just got there and he had a good season, so maybe they'll keep him. But they've got a lot of veterans to ship out, because I think they need to fully flip this team over and start a rebuild here. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them just to take a guy that is projected to go high in the draft, and he's going to end up, like, with his size, I think he could fit into the Flyers mold nicely.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't drafted for size as much as maybe you would think, as like the Flyers of old, right? They're going to need to change something up, right? They didn't even have a first round pick last year. They traded it for Rasmus Ristolainen, which that's a story for another day. But if you look at their recent drafts, they haven't really gone for size. Like Emil Andre is like a 5'8" defenseman.
True.
They took him in the second round. They took Bobby Brink in the second round, a 5'9" forward.
Yeah.
Owen Tippett was their big piece back for Claude Giroux. He's not an overly physical. He's a bit bigger, but not overly physical. Their first pick last year was Samu Tuomala. We loved him as a player, but he's a small, like, playmaking type guy. Yep. Even Tyson Forster, who I loved in the draft, he's a little bit bigger, but doesn't play like a physical brand of hockey as much as you would expect, the Flyers of old, the Konechnys, the Lautens, even obviously way back the Broad Street Bullies days. But Juraj Slafkovsky, he brings that power forward element, and maybe that's an element that's missing right now from what the Flyers expect. So I think that they would run up to the podium and just figure it out. And I'm looking right now, he didn't score, but guess what? 2 assists, couple grade A chances, led all Slovak players in ice time. And that's at the World Championships today with Team Slovakia. He played almost 21 minutes, Pilsy. Wow. So he's going to have a chance here internationally to continue the work he did at the Olympics when he really pushed his chips in. 7 goals in 7 games, helping Slovakia to a bronze. Should mention, Simon Nemec was on that team as well.
And didn't he win player of the tournament as well for the Olympics?
Yeah,
which is pretty impressive for a bronze medal team.
Yeah, no doubt. So certainly impressive for Juraj Slafkovsky, who we have going 5th in Mock Draft 1.0. Going number 6, Pilsy, I know you love this player. We've got right winger Joakim Kemell going to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joakim Kemell, and I think if he was to drop to the Senators, I would want them to pick him right away, but I don't think that would happen. The Sens, that's too easy. That's too obvious for them. They would never do that to their fans. So that probably wouldn't happen. And I think on yesterday's show, I said the Columbus Blue Jackets had a lot of center depth. I'm going to retract that statement. I think they need some help on center. But when you have a player as good as Kemell coming up here, and then they have another pick, I think it's like 13th or 14th or something like that, early teens, you're going to be able, there's going to be guys like Brad Lambert, Geeky. There's going to be so many other centermen available there. So I think they take advantage of an amazing winger that's going to be right there for the taking. And I think they go with Kemell, especially you get the Finnish connection there with Kekalainen.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him pass on Puljujärvi, but then he still ended up trading that third overall pick for a Finn in Patrick Laine, the player who went one spot ahead of him. It's pretty easy to make that connection, but I think there's plenty other reasons why you'd want to get him in the fold. A great goal scorer, a guy who can just bolster any offense. We know they've got some playmakers coming up in the system, so why not take a guy who's ranked third right now for both Bob McKenzie and Craig Button? So you're looking at a real skilled player, and I wouldn't be surprised if he cracked the top 5. There's certainly outlets that believe he's a better player than Slafkovsky. It'll be very interesting to see who goes off the board first there. That brings us to the Ottawa Senators at number 7. And it's a player we just spoke about yesterday. We thought about going big brain and not giving any of the 3 players who we profiled yesterday, although it makes sense that we have them 6, 7, 8 because we figure these are the players that could be most likely to go to Ottawa. Pilsy from the USN TDP, Cutter Gauthier.
Yeah, this just screams Sens pick. Like size, U.S. development program. He's going to school in Boston. His dad was a longtime veteran pro, a goalie-friendly show. You love to see that. And his biggest attribute is his shot. The Sens need someone that Tim Stutzle and Drake Batherson can facilitate the puck to. And I think Cutter Gauthier, it's not going to happen 1 year. It might not happen maybe it takes him 2 years. But after 3 years, I think for sure he will be ready to step into that role. And by that point, all those guys in your top 6 are going to be bona fide studs in the NHL. I mean, they already are, but they're going to have a couple notches in their belt of more NHL experience. And with a name like Cutter, that's sign me up. I'm down.
I still think the Sens trade the pick. That being said, Cutter Gauthier would be a very solid addition. Would not be. I know some people are quick to point out, power forward from the U.S. program. They're just reaching again. No guy. I think as we continue to see new lists, new final rankings come out, his overall stock is going to continue to get higher and higher. Yes, he's a couple years away, but he's got all the tools to be a sick top 6 scoring winger who can bring a power element to his game as well. So hopefully he can realize that potential, unless he goes either 8 or 9 to 2 divisional rivals. Then we hope he's a bust.
Yeah, exactly. That's I'm down for that as well. Yeah.
All right, let's pull up the graphic now to do 8, 9, 10 because we kind of built the suspense up to the Senators pick here. We've got them taking Cutter Gauthier in this mock draft. Shout out to whoever made this graphic. Nice, clear, clean, beautiful, easy to read. Pillsy, you want to read out who 8, 9, and 10 are? And maybe we'll explain each one briefly.
Yeah, and we talked about Jonathan Lecker-Mackey for the Red Wings. If the Sens or Blue Jackets don't take him, Yzerman's going to be running up to that draft table to make that pick, because I think he just fits in so nicely with all the other Swedish prospects they have. He's someone that I would not be disappointed at all if the Senators end up selecting him, because he's another guy who his shot is the biggest attribute of his game. And he's someone that if you put him alongside a Dylan Larkin or some of the other young talent that the Red Wings have, I think he can have a lot of success. And he's someone that the Red Wings don't need to jump in right away, right? Like, it's not like they're desperate for someone to fill holes in their lineup, because they're still kind of going through the motions of their rebuild. So Jonathan Lecker-Mackey to the Red Wings, I think other than obviously the first overall, I think that's the biggest lock in my mind, Ross.
Yeah, no question. We've got Matthew Savoie going 9th to Buffalo. He's a Winnipeg Ice centerman, undersized, 5'9". Let's put it this way. If he and his teammate Connor Geeky switch heights, Savoie is a top 5 pick guaranteed in this draft. Yeah. 90 points in 65 games in the WHL, continuing that production through the postseason right now. Winnipeg is dominating their competition, and he's a big reason why. Now, the size. We see it every year. The smaller players typically will fall a few spots. Now, Lecker-Mackey is only a 5'10" winger, but when you're centerman especially, I could see him going higher. Columbus, Philly, maybe, but I could also see him developing into more of a winger. And Frank Nazar, who we have going 10th to Anaheim, is in a bit of a similar spot. Sick puck skills, solid offensively, but again, a little bit undersized. So we've got them going 9th and 10th. I think they're both wild cards. We know friend of the show, Tony Ferrari, has Frank Nazar in his top 5. I don't think I would go that crazy just on the small sample size that I've seen of him so far. But certainly he's one of those guys of about 4 or 5 that didn't make this list who we could see sneaking in to the back half of the top 10.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for Buffalo, you're just looking for forward pieces now. Like you've got Dahlin, you've got Power, like you're good on the back end here. So I think they need, maybe we see Savoy transition to a winger since his small size is there and he can play with either Cousins, who's a big centerman, or Middlestat or Tage Thompson. So I think that makes a lot of sense for them. And then the Ducks, with Ryan Getzlaf retiring, their only centermen now are Zegras and Adam Henrique. So they definitely could use someone up the middle.
Some other names here to keep in mind, and we'll get to later on. I mentioned Connor Geekie, who is Matt Savoy's teammate with Winnipeg. Isaac Howard, another goal scorer from the U.S. program. And Brad Lambert, who is a big wild card, I think could go as high as 6. But to me, Columbus at 12, when they've already had one pick, maybe that's where you get him in the mix if he's not already off the board, because you're more of a home run swing at that point in the draft.
Yeah, and you know what? Who Lambert reminds me of a little? Atu Ratti. I mean, similar kind of like Finnish guy that was so highly projected earlier on, right? Like Lambert, they were talking about him in top 5, maybe even top. I think at one point they were talking, top 2 for this draft, and he's fallen. Now, I don't think he's going to go. Where did Ratti go? Like 44th overall to the Islanders?
I think it was like 52.
It was insane how far he dropped. I don't think that's going to happen with Lambert here, but I'm getting similar vibes here. And I think a team that, maybe doesn't have a lot of draft capital like the Islanders did, they can take a home run swing on a guy like that. But it would make a lot of sense for Columbus too. I'm imagining Columbus goes with 2 Finns in the draft here. That would just be so on brand.
Yeah, Brad Lambert, the most Finnish name ever, but his dad was playing pro hockey over there. They ended up staying as well, but he's got ties to North America. I believe the Prairies as well, but that's neither here nor there. Well, I am interested to see where he goes because he's got a ton of skill. Yep. Sometimes it's just a matter of having all the tools and maybe not the toolbox sometimes, but we'll see where he goes. We appreciate everyone for making us your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Had a nice little push on shirts yesterday, which you absolutely love to see. There's still limited quantities left, so reach out on Twitter, Sens Central, on Instagram, lockedon.senators, if you would like this limited edition Sens Central Citizen t-shirt. Pilsy, we're feeling good going to the weekend. There's a Game 7 tomorrow night between the Leafs and Lightning. You can follow at Brandon Piller 1. You can follow me at Ross Levitan. And please subscribe to the show on YouTube. We are also putting out mini videos from the segments there. So if you're wondering why you're using it twice, we just want to have it in a playlist for our 2022 draft profile. So stay tuned for all that. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Wait, one more thing before we go, though.
Final point.
Pilsy's parlay of the day remains hot. I needed that Tampa goal in overtime so quickly. I'm going to go over my parlay of the day for tonight's games. The Calgary Flames and Dallas Stars, they're the opposite of Tampa, Toronto. They're not scoring many goals, so I'm hitting the under. The under is set at 5.5 at minus 134. Then it's time for the Panthers to put the Caps away. Their money line is at minus 172. So my parlay is the under of Flame Stars and the Florida Panthers money line. Put $10 in. You're going to win $17.62 at betonline.ag. And that is Pilsy's playoff parlay of the day.
If you've missed a couple shows, Pilsy's playoff parlay of the day went from 1 to 4 or 1 to 3. And now it's tied.
I was 0-3. Then then it came back to 3-3. Then 3-4, and now we're back at it. So follow along with Pilsy's playoff parlay of the day at betonline.ag.
And be sure to chirp him if he loses on Twitter at Brandon Piller 1. All right, for today we say goodbye. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll chat on Monday. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.